तक हमारी आंखें हो ज्योति धार, 100 वर्ष तक हमारी आंखें ज्योति धारी, कानों में शब्द सुंदर, सुनने को शक्ति सारी, जगदीश यह विनय है। वाणी विराट प्रभु की बिरुदावली सुनामे, वाणी विराट प्रभु की बिरुदावली सुनामे, परतंत्रता है पातक स्वातंत्र्य मंत्र गामे, जगदीश यह विनय है। 100 वर्ष से अधिक भी जीवित रहे सुखारी, 100 वर्ष से अधिक भी जीवित रहे सुखारी, सर्वांग की क्रियाएं सब स्थिर रहें हमारी, जगदीश यह विनय है। हम वीर वर कहा में होकर शतायु भगवान, चक्षुर देवहिता पुरस्ता छोक्रमोचर, पश्येम शरदः शतम्, जगदीश यह विनय है। हो जगदीश यह विनय है। हम वीर वर कहाँ में, जगदीश यह विनय है।
धन्यवाद सर। अब मैं अंजलि ढिल्लन जी से आगे का कार्यक्रम की कार्यवाही के लिए आग्रह करूंगा। अंजलि ढिल्लन जी।
Yes, sir. Very good afternoon to all the eminent speakers, guests, and my dear student community. First of all, I would like to express my heartiest gratitude towards Gurukul Kangri Vishwavidyalaya Haridwar to organize such a mega event in which throughout the world all the eminent speakers and have joined to share their vast knowledge and experience with the student community. Coming to the today's session, our session's topic is multimodal experimental approaches to confirm the pharmacological effectiveness of natural products in Alzheimer's disease. Here, it is a great pleasure for me to introduce today's chairman, Dr. Jitendra Kumar Sinha sir. He is Senior Research Coordinator and Assistant Professor of Amity Institute of Neuropsychology and Neurosciences, Amity University, Noida, Uttar Pradesh. I heartily welcome you, sir. He has over 15 years of preclinical research and development experience in different areas of neuroscience, particularly involved in neurobiology of obesity, micronutrient deficiency, early life stress, spinal cord injury, epilepsy, neurodegeneration, and neuro-oncology. He has ample research experience at various national and international research institutions like University of South Wales, Australia, University of Verona, Italy, National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, Bangalore, and CSIR, Hyderabad. He is esteemed member of various editorial boards and scientific organizations like International Brain Research Organization, Indian Academy of Neurosciences, Nutrition Society of India, etc. He has more than 25 international publications in reputed journals like The Lancet, with highest impact factor of 60.5. He has also published 16 international book chapters, and the list goes on with awards and honors received by Dr. Jitendra Sinha sir, but especially he received 8 awards from International Brains Research Organization. Other prestigious awards are from the Japan Neurosciences Society, UNESCO, Society of Neurosciences USA, etc. I heartily welcome you for today's session, sir. I would like you to continue and
Thank you,
enlighten our
Dr. Anjali.
students with the session. Thank you so much, sir.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Being the chairperson of today's session, I am honored and welcome all of you on the behalf of Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Gurukul Kangri University, Haridwar. On the occasion of continuing Medicinal Plant Mahakumbh 2021, it is my proud privilege to welcome our today's keynote speaker, Dr. Mohammad Farooq Sheikh from Monash University, Malaysia. He has done and is continuing excellent research work in neuropharmacology and epilepsy. I'm sure his talk will be helpful to the audience through the updated knowledge and help in research and, of course, enhancing the social point of view. Talking about the Medicinal Plant Mahakumbh or Mega Exhibition, it started from 14th of January 2021 and hope going on till 31st April with various exemplary activities. Therefore, I request to start today's session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to introduce to today's speaker, Dr. Mohammad Farooq Sheikh. I'm pleased to welcome you, sir, as a speaker for today's section. Dr. Farooq is senior lecturer in pharmacology leader, neuropharmacological research strength, Monash University, Malaysia. He is a leader and expert in neuropharmacology. He is interested in both drug discovery and understanding the disease mechanisms. He leads the team, and his team has also newly developed model using the zebrafish, which allows the scientists to understand the mechanism of the disease as well as it helps in developing the safer drugs. His team is also working on unraveling the molecular mechanisms involved in disease progression, especially the role of inflammatory biomarkers in epilepsy and other brain disorders. He is a recipient of Monash PVC Award for Excellence in Research and Malaysian Society of Neuroscience with the Best Publication Award in 2017. He is involved in PhD supervision and publishing papers with highest impact factors. Dr. Farooq, he has completed his PhD in pharmacology from the Institute of Chemical Technology, University of Mumbai in 2012. During his PhD, he was also selected by the International Brain Research Organization to be part of the prestigious Young Scientist Training Program for his research work in epilepsy. He was awarded various fellowships and he continued with the IBRO APRC fellowship to continue his postdoctoral studies at School of Biomedical Sciences, University of Queensland, Australia, where he worked with Dr. Karen Borges on epilepsy therapy research. He has several international publications in peer-reviewed index journals with impact factor 84.4, 75.2, 23.2, and so on. He has 2 patents under his name. He has several international book chapters. He has various distinguished grants under his name. He is also a member of various editorial boards. To continue further and to enlighten the session, I would like to call Dr. Farooq to continue with the session and enlighten us for the topic epilepsy. Over to
Thank
you,
you
sir.
very much, Miss Anjali. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और बहुत बहुत
Welcome,
धन्यवाद
sir.
डॉक्टर अभिषेक का भी मुझे इनवाइट करने के लिए और साथ ही साथ यहाँ पर जितने फैकल्टी मेंबर्स मौजूद है जो गुरुकुल कांगसा यूनिवर्सिटी के हैं, कंगरी यूनिवर्सिटी के हैं, उन सब का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और आभारी हूँ मैं कि उन्होंने मुझे ये मौका दिया। और साथ ही साथ मेरे बहुत अच्छे फ्रेंड डॉक्टर जितेंद्र जो मॉडरेट कर रहे हैं। डॉक्टर जितेंद्र से मेरी दोस्ती 2010 से है, जब हम लोग फर्स्ट टाइम इब्रो के वर्ल्ड कांग्रेस के मौके पर जो यंग इन्वेस्टिगेटर्स के प्रोग्राम है, जिसमें डॉक्टर जितेंद्र भी सेलेक्ट हुए थे। दुनिया से टोटल 75 लोग सेलेक्ट हुए थे। लकीली हम लोग भी उसके अंदर मौजूद थे। और वहाँ से जो है हमारी दोस्ती शुरू हुई और अब तक चल रही है और फल रही फूल रही है। अब वो कोलैबोरेशन की तरफ भी जा रही है। तो नाइस टू सी हिम एज वेल। डॉक्टर अभिषेक जो मेरे सबसे पुराने दोस्त हैं यहाँ पर मौजूद, और उनसे मेरी दोस्ती जो है वो 2000 से है, सन 2000, मतलब 20 साल पुरानी है। तो गुड टू सी हिम आल्सो आफ्टर अ लॉन्ग टाइम। तो आई एम जस्ट बहुत बहुत आभारी सभी लोगों को, और खासकर यूनिवर्सिटी का, जिन्होंने ये मेडिसिनल प्लांट्स के महाकुंभ पर जो है मुझे इनवाइट किया। मैं अपना लेक्चर शुरू करता हूँ, क्योंकि मैं उसको मिक्स करूंगा इंग्लिश के अंदर भी और हिंदी के अंदर भी। कुछ टर्मिनोलॉजी हिंदी में शायद मैं ना बता पाऊँ, लेकिन आई विल ट्राई माई लेवल बेस्ट। ठीक है, आई एम ट्राइंग टू शेयर माई स्लाइड्स हियर। आई होप मेरी स्लाइड्स विजिबल है सबको। कोई कंफर्म कर दे इसको।
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yes, sir.
ओके, ऑलराइट। सो अगेन थैंक यू सो मच मिस अंजलि, आपके इंट्रोडक्शन के लिए। और जो टॉपिक आज मैं बात करने वाला हूँ या आप लोगों से शेयर करने वाला हूँ, वो है मल्टी मॉडल एक्सपेरिमेंटल अप्रोचेस टू कंफर्म द फार्माकोलॉजिकल इफेक्टिवनेस ऑफ नेचुरल प्रोडक्ट्स इन अल्जाइमर डिसीज। जैसे डॉक्टर अंजलि ने इंट्रोड्यूस किया, मैं मोनाश यूनिवर्सिटी मलेशिया के अंदर जो है स्कूल ऑफ मेडिसिन के अंदर सीनियर लेक्चरर हूँ फार्माकोलॉजी में। जबकि मेरा जो बैकग्राउंड है वो फार्मेसी का है। मैंने बी फार्म डॉक्टर अभिषेक के साथ, और फिर एम फार्म मैंने किया है इंडिया से ही, और पीएचडी मेरी मुंबई से फार्माकोलॉजी में। तो मेरा पूरा बैकग्राउंड जो है वो फार्मेसी का रहा है। लेकिन मेरी पीएचडी और पोस्ट डॉक और उसके बाद जो पार्ट रहा वो उसमें मेरा इंक्लिनेशन मोर टुवर्ड्स एपिलेप्सी रिसर्च और न्यूरोसाइंस रिसर्च पे रहा। तो मेरी फील्ड जो है वो मेडिसिन की तरफ ज़्यादा चलेगी, और यहाँ पर भी मैं एमबीबीएस स्टूडेंट्स को पढ़ाता हूँ, और साथ ही साथ जो लैब है हमारी उसमें न्यूरोफार्माकोलॉजिकल रिसर्च करता हूँ। तो अगेन गुरुकुल कंगरी विश्वविद्यालय का बड़ा आभारी हूँ कि मुझे ये मौका दिया। हम अल्जाइमर्स की अगर बात करें तो अल्जाइमर्स इज अ irreversible progressive brain disease that slows मेमोरी एंड थिंकिंग स्किल। और जैसा कि श्लोक में कहा जा रहा था कि भाई जो है ना वो 100 साल जीने की जो है वो दुआएं और जो है वो हम जो प्रेरणा कर रहे थे। लेकिन अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज एक वो कंडीशन है जिन्होंने जो वो प्रार्थना के ऊपर जो थोड़ा सा हमारे इफेक्ट किया है, कि जिसमें लोग जो है ना अब वो 100 बरस तक या उससे ज्यादा नहीं जी पाते। और इसके लिए अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज एक बड़ी रिस्पॉन्सिबल है, क्योंकि ये ओल्ड एज डिसीज है, और इसमें मेनली लोग जो 65 एंड अबव वाले हैं उनके अंदर अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज जो है वो सबसे ज्यादा पाई जाती है। और दुनिया में तकरीबन आज के जमाने में 18 मिलियन लोग हैं जो अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज से सफर हो रहे हैं। और साथ ही साथ जो डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज है उसके अंदर इसका प्रोपोर्शन ज्यादा है। तो ओवरऑल हम कह सकते हैं कि जो ग्लोबल बर्डन है ये डिसीज का वो काफी अलार्मिंग है और बड़ा चिंता का विषय है। और अगर हम दो टर्म बहुत ज्यादा सुनते हैं, एक है अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज और एक है डिमेंशिया। जबकि डिमेंशिया एक बड़ी अम्ब्रेला है जिसके अंदर में बहुत सारे न्यूरो डिजेनरेटिव जो न्यूरॉन्स को डिजेनरेट करते हैं वो डिसीजें आती है। और उसमें अल्जाइमर्स एक बड़ा पोर्शन जो है वो डिमेंशिया के अंदर करती है। हर डिमेंशिया जो है वो अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज नहीं है, लेकिन हर अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज जो है वो डिमेंशिया का टाइप है। तो डिमेंशिया जो है बड़ी अम्ब्रेला है, जैसा मैंने कहा, और अल्जाइमर उसके अंदर एक है। और जो मेन जो इसके अगर हम सिम्टम्स की बात करें तो उसमें जो मेमोरी है या याद रखने की जो क्षमता है, और रीजनिंग थिंकिंग स्किल, डे टू डे जो एक्टिविटी हमारे बुजुर्ग करते हैं वो करने की क्षमता जो है वो कम हो जाती है। लोग भूलने लग जाते हैं, फॉरगेटफुलनेस उसके अंदर बहुत ज्यादा होती है। So these are the key, I will say, elements which are actually responsible for cognitive dysfunction in Alzheimer's and dementia both. So as I was working के risk factors क्या क्या, कि कौन से लोग जो है इसके ऊपर ज्यादा जिनको अल्जाइमर्स डिजीज हो सकती है। जैसे मैंने कहा कि इट्स अ ओल्ड एज डिसीज, सो जो यंग है उनको कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, अब तक कोई ऐसी डिस्कवरी नहीं है जो ये कहें कि जवान लोगों में भी है जो अल्जाइमर डिसीज होता है। नो, इट्स मोर ऑफ ओल्ड एज डिसीज। अगर किसी का ऑलरेडी जेनेटिक हिस्ट्री है, जिनके अंदर कोई स्पेसिफिक जीन म्यूटेशन है, दैट कुड बी रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर दिस डिसीज। डाउन सिंड्रोम, unhealthy lifestyle, that may leads to a lot of beta amyloid and tau protein accumulation. All those factors actually can also affect. Previous head trauma है या कोई और social आपका interaction कम है या social life के अंदर effect है, that also actually affects. So जो बुजुर्गों के अंदर जो है वो बहुत ज्यादा ये चीज पाई जाती है जो हमारे बड़े लोग। तो अगर हम इसकी टाइमलाइन देखें स्टेजेस ऑफ अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज, वी आर सेइंग इट्स नॉट एट ऑल अफेक्टिंग healthy individuals, but it is more of a old age disease, as I mentioned, and only after 60 onwards start growing or showing all the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. And if we talk about 65 and above, I mean, when you look at this green zone, still people may be able to perform their day-to-day activity, they're able to remember, but as it progresses, it will decline the cognitive dysfunction and memory and learning ability, all the day-to-day activities in the individuals. It affect more as people get older. As I mentioned in the previous slide, there are various 7 stages of this disease, and each stage, I mean, if you talk about until the 4th stage, you may not see very specific symptoms, and that person may not require any assistance. लेकिन जैसे ही वो 5th stage के बाद पार कर लेते हैं, they cannot perform their day-to-day activity alone. उनको कोई सहारे या support की जरूरत है, and then 6th and 7th stage are actually उनको disability की तरफ लेके आता है, जो उनको अपंग बना देता है। और अगर हम स्टेजेस को इन नटशेल में देखें तो जो स्टेज 6 और के ऊपर जो है 5th और 6th एंड सो ऑन है, वहां पर आपको तभी तमाम चीजें, मतलब पैथोलॉजिकल बायोमार्कर्स की बात करें हम, कॉग्निटिव डिसफंक्शन, फंक्शनल इम्पेयरमेंट, डिमेंशिया, वो तमाम चीजें जो है। और अर्ली स्टेज में अगर आप स्टेज 1st, 2nd, 3rd देखें, उसमें वो डायग्नोस भी नहीं कर सकते कि ये यहाँ पर जो है अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज इनको है या नहीं, क्योंकि कोई बायोमार्कर उसमें नजर नहीं आएंगे। बायोमार्कर विल ओनली ग्रो वेरी सिग्निफिकेंटली ऑन स्टेज 4, 5 एंड 6। तो ये कार्टून है जो अल्जाइमर्स की पैथोलॉजी को डिपिक्ट करता है, एबनॉर्मल स्ट्रक्चर्स इन अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज। एंड इफ वी टॉक अबाउट जो टाउ और अमाइलॉइड बीटा प्लेक्स जो है, जो प्रोटीन्स जो हमारे ब्रेन में जमा हो जाते हैं, और उसके अलावा न्यूरोफिब्रिलरी टैंगल्स है, ये जो नॉन हाइपोथेसिस है, मैं उसके बारे में बात कर रहा हूँ। देयर आर अदर हाइपोथेसिस व्हिच इज vascular hypothesis, cholinergic hypothesis, oxidative stress, free radical generation, उसके बारे में बात कर रहे हैं। बट इन अ नटशेल जो मेन कल्प्रिट है अल्जाइमर्स डिजीज के, tau and beta amyloid, we can see this communication where they are disconnecting from each other, and this is where the neuronal wiring and synaptic plasticity loosen up a bit. So this is the I can say this is not limited to these hypotheses. Alzheimer's, we have a lot of new hypotheses coming in, but I will say these are the most established hypotheses in Alzheimer's disease. So one is cholinergic hypothesis, and I will talk more about cholinergic hypothesis because currently jitne treatment available hai right now, they are based on cholinergic hypothesis. If we talk about drugs which are like donepezil or piracetam, which are in use in Alzheimer's patient, they are basically working through cholinergic hypothesis. Or we will talk about amyloid and tau hypothesis. These are the I will say neurotoxic proteins which get accumulated into the brain, and this is where brain degenerate and lose its functioning. That's again very, very important in Alzheimer's disease. एक और चीज जो मैं आपको बोलना चाह रहा हूँ कि a lot of people, you will find a lot of researcher actually completely deny, or they say amyloid hypothesis is not, or beta amyloid hypothesis is not part of Alzheimer's disease, because according to their research, they found in some Alzheimer's patients they couldn't find beta amyloid. So the reason why I'm saying that to you all, because इसीलिए हम कह रहे हैं कि अल्जाइमर्स का एक फिक्स्ड बायोमार्कर नहीं है अब तक, क्योंकि the research on Alzheimer's is still growing, still a lot of research is going. So I will not agree to that hypothesis कि भाई amyloid beta जो है वो बिल्कुल रो नहीं करती है, बल्कि in some patient maybe Alzheimer amyloid beta was not the key hallmark or key biomarker in that patient, because as my title said, it is a multifactorial disease. ये एक उसका reason नहीं है. I'm not saying that amyloid beta and tau will be present in all Alzheimer's disease patients, or there will be vascular dementia in all Alzheimer's patients, or there will be cholinergic dysfunction in all Alzheimer's. That's not true. You will find one or other problem in the Alzheimer's patient, and this is where the disease need a multifactorial attention and not only a single source or mechanism. So I was talking about के जो available treatment है उसमें हम अगर देखें कि donepezil, galantamine, memantine, rivastigmine and combination of memantine and donepezil, ये सभी drugs जो है वो cholinergic hypothesis, basically जो cholinergic dysfunction है उसको correct करते हैं, ताकि acetylcholine का concentration जो है वो brain में बरकरार रहे, जो learning and memory के लिए important है. और इसके अलावा अगर आप देखेंगे कि कोई भी ना एमाइलॉइड बीटा ना टाउ और ना ही जो वस्कुलर के लिए कोई ट्रीटमेंट फिलहाल के लिए अवेलेबल है. और जो कोलिनर्जिक हाइपोथेसिस के लिए जो ड्रग्स यूज हो रहे हैं, दे आर मोर इनटू प्रोफिलैक्टिक, आई विल से कि वो प्रिवेंटिव है, वो क्योर नहीं करते अल्जाइमर्स को. हम ये कह सकते हैं कि अब तक की तारीख में जो है वो अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज का कोई क्योर नहीं है. Coming to the, because it's a medicinal plant, Mahakum, I think it is important to understand. So I am using this example, what we have done in our lab, plant-based active constant, which is Ambelin. और इस Ambelin को जो है हमने जो है मल्टी मॉडल यूज करके जो है इसकी स्क्रीनिंग की है, whether it's really effective. तो ये एक और आइडिया है कि जब हम कोई भी मेडिसिनल प्लांट्स या फाइटो कंपाउंड से रिलेटेड चीजों पर रिसर्च करते हैं, तो what should be our approach when it comes to Alzheimer's disease? तो हमको बेसिक इसकी इंफॉर्मेशन है कि भाई ये इनसॉल्युबल है वाटर में, बट इसका मॉलिक्यूलर वेट जो है 294 है, और जो है इसकी ऑलरेडी रिपोर्टेड कुछ एक्टिविटीज है, फॉर एग्जांपल एंटी कन्वल्सन, एंटी डिप्रेसेंट और एंटी न्यूरो इन्फ्लेमेटरी, जो ब्रेन रिलेटेड है. तो हमने ये हाइपोथेसाइज किया कि इट इज ऑलरेडी एबल टू क्रॉस ब्लड ब्रेन बैरियर, व्हिच इज इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर एनी CNS ड्रग. और उसी के साथ साथ जो है इसकी न्यूरो इन्फ्लेमेटरी प्रॉपर्टी, जो अल्जाइमर्स के अंदर एक और हाइपोथेसिस है कि ब्रेन में न्यूरो इन्फ्लेमेशन होता है, जिसकी वजह से जो है अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज होती है. सो हमने सोचा कि चूंकि ये जो कंपाउंड है एम्बेलिन फाइटो कंपाउंड, इसमें ऑलरेडी कुछ क्वालिटीज है दैट कुड बी अ पॉसिबल ट्रीटमेंट फॉर अल्जाइमर्स डिसीज. हमने डायरेक्टली जो है वो एनिमल मॉडल्स या सेल मॉडल्स पर जो है ना वो ज्यादा के लिए कोई जल्दी नहीं की, बल्कि हमने इस कंपाउंड्स को थोड़ा सा और जो है वो हमारे इन सिलिको मॉडल में उसको जो स्टडी किया. सो पहली चीज तो हमने ये की कि ये कंपाउंड जो है एम्बेलिन, क्या ये एक सही CNS एक्टिव ड्रग बन सकता है कि नहीं बन सकता है. उसके लिए पटानीडाल की कुछ जो है वो सजेशन है. अगर आप ये कंपाउंड्स के अंदर ये केमिकल उसकी चीजें देख लें, तो दैट विल हेल्प यू टू डिसाइड वेदर दैट पर्टिकुलर कंपाउंड विल बी एबल टू क्रॉस ब्लड ब्रेन बैरियर और नॉट. सो कंपाउंड शुड बी अनआयनाइज्ड, द log p वैल्यू शुड बी नियर 2, उसका मॉलिक्यूलर वेट 400 डाल्टन से कम होना चाहिए, तो इट कैन देन क्रॉस ब्लड ब्रेन बैरियर, एंड द क्यूमुलेटिव हाइड्रोजन बॉन्ड्स शुड नॉट बियॉन्ड 8 to 10. और हमने जब वो इसको एम्बेलिन में देखा तो वी फाउंड दैट इट इज अनआयनाइज्ड. दैट्स कंप्लीट द फर्स्ट क्राइटेरिया. Log P value is 4.83, not really bad. Molecular weight is still under 400 Dalton, and then the cumulative hydrogen bond is 6. So इस prediction के base पे हम कह सकते थे कि it is more likely it will cross the blood-brain barrier. So ये इसके लिए आपको ना in vitro की जरूरत है ना कोई chemical की जरूरत है. This is simple. Looking at the structure, some of the chemistry, you will be able to predict that. So that's the first step we have done. उसके बाद सेकंड थिंग, वी आर नॉट गेटिंग इनटू द लैब येट, वी वांटेड टू डू, ओके ठीक है हमने पता कर लिया इट कैन क्रॉस ब्लड ब्रेन बैरियर, but we wanted to check on the two targets, which is one is acetylcholine esterase inhibitor जो कोलिनर्जिक हाइपोथेसिस से रिलेटेड है, और दूसरा जो अमाइलॉइड बीटा है उसके साथ इस कंपाउंड का इंटरेक्शन कैसा है, क्योंकि अगर इंटरेक्शन नहीं होगा तो हम एक्टिविटी को फिर एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करते। जब हमने उस इंटरेक्शन को देखा, so we found के there is good binding energy, और ये कंपाउंड जो है इन टारगेट्स पर जो है वो अटैक हो सकता है। so that's give us a more encouragement के अब हम इसको फर्दर जो है अगले एक्टिविटीज के लिए जा सकते हैं। उसके बाद हमने क्या किया, द फर्स्ट स्टेप वी डिड इज acetylcholine esterase inhibitor inhibition activity, which is a very very much in vitro study। ना आपको यहाँ पे कोई सेल्स की जरूरत है ना कोई, आपने अपना कंपाउंड लेना है, acetylcholine esterase एंजाइम लेना है, और फिर उसके साथ आप केमिकल रिएक्शन कराते हैं जो आपको बताता है कि वेदर आपका कंपाउंड जो है इस एंजाइम को इनहिबिट करता है नहीं करता। एसिटाइलकोलिन एस्ट्रेज एंजाइम जो है बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, जो एसिटाइलकोलिन के मेटाबॉलिज्म में रोल करता है, यानी एसिटाइलकोलिन को वो तोड़ता है। अल्जाइमर डिजीज में हमको क्या चाहिए, हमको ज्यादा एसिटाइलकोलिन चाहिए सिनेप्टिक क्लेफ्ट पर, ओके। अगर ये एंजाइम उसको ब्रेक कर देगा तो एसिटाइलकोलिन का लेवल नीचे चला जाएगा, जो अल्जाइमर्स में के लिए एक बुरी चीज है। तो उसके लिए जो एसिटाइलकोलिन एस्ट्रेज इनहिबिटर्स होते हैं, जैसे मैंने एग्जांपल दिया डोनेपेसिल इज बेसिकली एसिटाइलकोलिन एस्ट्रेज इनहिबिटर, जो उसको ब्रेक डाउन होने से रोकता है। तो अगर आपका कंपाउंड एसिटाइलकोलिन एस्ट्रेज को इनहिबिट कर रहा है, दैट मींस इट्स पॉजिटिव थिंग फॉर एंटी अल्जाइमर्स थेरेपी। So we found it has a IC50 value of 168.9 micromolar। उसके बाद हमने जो है ना अपनी हाइपोथेसिस को फिर से लिखा कि भाई ये जो है इन विट्रो इन सिलिको एसिटाइलकोलिन एस्ट्रेज इनहिबिटर है, इट कैन इन सिलिको बीटा अमाइलॉइड एफिनिटी भी है। ऑलरेडी लिटरेचर से हमको पता था कि इसका एंटी न्यूरो इन्फ्लेमेटरी प्रॉपर्टी है और एंटीऑक्सीडेंट भी है, जो आर आल्सो वेरी एसेंशियल फॉर एंटी अल्जाइमर्स ड्रग। तो हमने ये प्लॉट किया कि भाई दिस इज अ पॉसिबल मैकेनिज्म ऑफ एक्शन, और हाइपोथेसिस हमने डाली कि एम्बेलिन जो है वो न्यूरोप्रोटेक्टिव हो सकता है वाया एंटी एसिटाइलकोलिन एस्ट्रेज इनहिबिशन, एक मैकेनिज्म है जो यहाँ पर आप देख सकते हैं। दूसरा है जो बीटा एमाइलॉइड प्लेग, चूंकि हमने उसकी इन सिलिको में एफिनिटी देखी। दिस इज ऑल हाइपोथेसिस, आई एम नॉट सेइंग वी हैव प्रूव्ड येट, इट इज वी हैव हाइपोथेसाइजिंग हियर। देयर एंटीऑक्सीडेंट एक्टिविटी है, जिसका मतलब वो फ्री रेडिकल स्कैवेंजर भी हो सकता है। एंटी न्यूरो इन्फ्लेमेटरी है, जो न्यूरो इन्फ्लेमेटरी मार्कर्स है TNF अल्फा, इंटरल्यूकिन बीटा, इंटरल्यूकिन 6, उसको भी इनहिबिट कर सकता है। So based on this mechanism, we hypothesize again that Embelin could be a potential candidate for anti-Alzheimer's therapy. उसके बाद हमने थोड़ा सा लिटरेचर सर्च किया, कि पता किया कि एम्बेलिन का और कौन कौन सी डिसीज के अंदर जो है ना वो एक्टिविटी और उसके क्या क्या मैकेनिज्म है, to strengthen our hypothesis and to strengthen our research to understand, okay, already Embelin do have potential actually to act on multiple mechanism in other diseases. Some of these mechanisms are also related with Alzheimer's disease. So that give us a very good idea. For example, if you look at Huntington disease, it is already, you can see a strong antioxidant effect here. So that is good. If you look at the neuroinflammation, it is already inhibiting NF-kappa B pathway. So that's actually encourages to do further research. मैंने अब तक जो भी बात की वो मैं ये बोल रहा चाह रहा था कि आप सिर्फ डायरेक्टली इन विट्रो मॉडल्स या इन विवो मॉडल्स पे नहीं जाएं, बल्कि आप एक सिस्टमैटिक अप्रोच रखें। आप जो भी रिसर्च कर रहे हैं, और खास अल्जाइमर्स के लिए जैसे मैंने बताया, आप जो है प्रेडिक्शन बेस से इन विट्रो इन सिलिको से इन विट्रो पे फिर जाए, तो दैट विल गिव यू अ स्टेप बाय स्टेप progress in your research, and it will make your research more organized, as well as you will have more evidence to go further. उसके बाद हमने क्या हाइपोथेसाइज किया कि हमने चूंकि प्रेडिक्शन से देख लिया था कि इसकी ब्लड ब्रेन बैरियर परमेबिलिटी है, लेकिन हमको एक्चुअल सेल्स के अंदर इसको चेक करना था कि क्या ये ब्रेन सेल्स को परमेट तो हो रहा है, लेकिन क्या ये टॉक्सिक तो नहीं ब्रेन सेल्स को। दैट्स अनदर क्राइटेरिया यू नीड टू थिंक फॉर एनी ड्रग। सेकंड थिंग, वेदर इट्स रियली permeate through blood-brain barrier. So that question we want to ask, and we have done one model for that. उसके बाद हमको कोलिनर्जिक जो हाइपोथेसिस थी उसको चेक करना था, तो for that we have actually evaluate neuroprotective effect using the scopolamine model. Scopolamine is a well-established model to study cholinergic hypothesis for amnesia in rats. Then हमने tau और Hawley hypothesis के लिए जो है streptozotocin को use किया. We'll come to that in great detail. There are two models. आप उसको in vitro भी कर सकते हैं, लेकिन more established or acceptable model is a in vivo model by injecting streptozotocin into the brain directly to the rats. Jitendra ji, मैं सही जा रहा हूँ? Is there any I'm too fast or
No,
is everything
सही
okay?
सही चल रहा है सर, अच्छा है, बहुत अच्छा.
Thank you for that. फिर जो चौथी हमने हाइपोथेसिस देखी थी वो है वस्कुलर हाइपोथेसिस, क्योंकि a lot of time जब आपका ब्लड सप्लाई टू ब्रेन ऑक्लूड हो जाता है, जिसकी वजह से बहुत सारे ब्रेन एरियाज डेड हो जाते हैं, and that's also play a role in leading to both Alzheimer's and dementia. So we thought it's worth to check that as well, and that also give us an opportunity to check on what you call long-term potentiation, LTP, for synaptic plasticity. So in a nutshell, ये हमारी methodology थी, BBB, scopolamine model, STZ model, and we can say biclear occlusion model. और अगर आप उसमें देखेंगे हमने बहुत सारी चीजें mention की, जैसे BBB में we were interested in looking at toxicity of the to the cells of the compound, then उसकी integrity क्या थी. Scopolamine model we wanted to look at both behavior, कि learning and memory behavior किस तरह से ये drug protect कर पाती है, और साथ ही साथ हमने उसकी फर्दर मॉलिक्यूलर मैकेनिज्म जानने के लिए जीन एक्सप्रेशन स्टडी एज वेल एज न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर लेवल को भी एसेस किया. और सिमिलरली स्ट्रेप्टोजोटोसिन मॉडल के अंदर जो है वो सेल वायबिलिटी है और टॉक्सिसिटी है स्ट्रेप्टोजोटोसिन को लेके, वो भी हमने स्टडी दी. यहाँ पे जैसे मैंने बताया लर्निंग एंड मेमोरी के अलावा जो लॉन्ग टर्म पोटेंशिएशन है जो सिनेप्टिक प्लास्टिसिटी से रिलेट करता है, उसको भी हमने इसके अंदर देखा. So ये पहला एक्सपेरिमेंट था जिसमें we have looked at the blood-brain barrier permeability. We have used porcine brain microvessel endothelial cell, which was cryopreserved and growing the culture, and then the toxicity of the embelin was performed, and then the permeability was done, and after the permeability, it was collected and it was run under LCMS to detect embelin. So we calculate how much embelin we have loaded and how much able to cross through this endothelial artificial, we'll say, blood-brain barrier, which we have created using porcine endothelial microvessel cells. And that was our first thing. We found that from the toxicity point of view, embelin was quite okay, and it does not really cause toxicity to the cells. And then it could penetrate through the blood-brain barrier without damaging it. We have used DMSO and methanol as standards to check, because methanol actually have negative effect, whereas DMSO, 100% DMSO may have a negative effect, whereas methanol and embelin, which actually able to cross the blood-brain barrier, and we saw the effect of the embelin as comparable as 101% methanol. So हमारा first question जो था blood-brain barrier permeability का, that we able to answer, and then we checked it with the donepezil, which is existing one. We found a similar recovery as well as permeability when compared to donepezil. So the conclusion for this part was embelin can cross blood-brain barrier. The next model, as I mentioned, to check the cholinergic hypothesis, we have used a scopolamine model. And we wanted to check both nootropic activity, which is a natural memory enhancing effect of the drug, and at the same time, we wanted to check a chronic anti-amnesic effect. So chronic anti-amnesic, we have given scopolamine every day for about 8 to 10 days to check whether this is recovered by embelin and donepezil, which is the standard drug treatment. So we found a significant difference, especially in the recognition index in the novel object recognition test. This is one of the tests we use for learning and memory detection. And embelin compared to donepezil could able to reverse the effect. If you see this group, the second one, which is scopolamine group, this animal have severe dementia compared to scopolamine and the donepezil and amylin in a dose-dependent manner, able to reverse that effect. We found similarly in elevated plasmas, the nootropic activity was improved. When we talk about nootropic activity, that means it is a smart drug. Okay, it enhances your natural memory as well. Uh, uh, Whereas scopolamine is, we are talking about disease condition. So we found scopolamine actually significantly improved here in elevated plasmase model, but it also improved in disease condition in plasmase model, but the difference was not statistically significant. Whereas we found the significant difference in the novel object recognition test. One of the conclusion from this, we can say that actually both this model represent a different type of memory, and elevated plasmase is a more of fear memory, and this is the reason why we couldn't see much or significant difference, whereas novel object recognition is a general learning and memory, and we found improvement even after the chronic scopolamine treatment group. So we found this amylin actually increase the recognition index in nootropic and scopolamine model in our object recognition test. So that we checked our first hypothesis, but we backed it with some of the molecular mechanism understanding gene expression, looking at BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotropic factor, responsible for neurogenesis and plasticity. And then we have CRAB1, which is again important for long-term memory. SOD and catalase are oxidative marker, and we were interested. We have used, we have isolated hippocampus from the animals, and then cDNA synthesis, and we finally run the RT-PCR to check the effect. And we found that amylin actually significantly improve BDNF, CRAB, catalase, SOD, mRNA expression level compared to the scopolamine model. If you see this orange color graph here, which is lower compared to this treatment ones. So that's basically on the gene expression. Then we also looked at some of the neurotransmitter level, and we found that amylin as at lower dose, it significantly improves the acetylcholine level. And this is the reason why we able to see all the good behavior effect when it comes to learning and memory, because amylin able to potentiate the acetylcholine level in the brain compared to the other treatment level. Other were not significantly improved, whereas you can say scopolamine, significantly improved, whereas you can see the scopolamine group has a very negative effect on the dopamine level. And then same applies to the glutamate on norepinephrine. So we can say that amylin increase the level of acetylcholine, which is good, and then they decrease the dopamine, norepinephrine, and glutamate level, which supposed to be to maintain the good learning and memory balance. We also did some immunohistochemistry where we wanted to see some of the important proteins, especially DCX for neurogenesis and FOHNE, which is used for lipid peroxidation. We found that you can see the difference from the scopolamine model, where there is a loss of neurons, and whereas the treatment with amylin actually improves that, and that is well denoted here in the graph. You can see scopolamine, the DCX positive cells are decreased, whereas the scopolamine, both in donepezil as well as amylin treated group, they are enhanced in numbers. So this is again 4HNE, and we found similar results, and it kind of improved here. So 4HNE, ideally it should decrease when it comes to maintain the typical lipid peroxidation, and this is where amylin actually improved that activity. The next model we have used for Embelin is a in vitro uh, uh, rat primary hippocampal culture. And we take out the hippocampus from the young pups and then culture them into the lab and then run the assay. And other than that, looking at the MTT, we also look at some of the important genes, especially GSK3, which is play important role in Alzheimer's, amyloid precursor protein, microtubule associated protein, which is tau, SOD, and inflammatory protein, which is NF-kappa B. And then this is the results from the MTT assay toxicity. We found up to the 37.15 is the IC50 value here. So not so toxic, and it's okay for the cells. The second thing, look at the STZ sterilization. You need to choose a dose of streptozotocin, which creates some toxicity, and then that dose you choose here, which is we have used 8 millimolar, and then you use with your Embelin, whether your Embelin able to rescue the neurotoxicity which is induced by the streptozotocin in the cells. So we found that Embelin at 0.6 micromolar showing neuroprotective effect again streptozotocin, whereas the other higher doses, Embelin was not so good. To be very honest, that's the observation we have seen. So when we looked at the amyloid genesis in STZ model, and we found that streptozotocin actually able to increase the amyloid beta development into the this cell culture model, and whereas our Embelin able to rescue that. So I think that the graph will give you a better idea. I'm not so sure if figure are very clear, but you can see the beta amyloid aggregation more here compared to the Embelin treated group, which is coming from C, D, and E. So that confirms our both amyloid and tau hypothesis, and Embelin able to actually protect that and also helps in amyloid protect the amyloid hypothesis. So this is the mechanism we have derived from this model. This paper is still under review to be published before. So Embelin actually able to rescue this STZ-induced toxicity, looking at the various markers related to oxidative stress, inflammation, as well as beta amyloid and tau aggregation into the neuronal cells. We have used another example, which is this medicinal plant, cat whiskers. This comes from the Tulsi family, but it's a different found in Malaysia and Southeast Asia mainly. It has a similar neuroprotective effect, also anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. The specific thing I wanted to show for this particular plant that we have used an in vivo model actually, which is an in vivo STZ ICV rat model. And I wanted to show compared to the human sporadic Alzheimer's disease, because Alzheimer's is not something which happens overnight. It happens over the years. So we called it's a progressive sporadic Alzheimer's disease. And this is where if we compare the STZ model and the human sporadic Alzheimer's disease, a lot of pathological markers are very similar. So if you look at from the behavior point of view, there is a decreased learning and memory. If you look at morphological markers, gliosis and synaptic loss, both can be observed. What we see in human is actually observed in rat model. Then you have decreased glucose metabolism, neurochemical markers like oxidative stress, acetylcholine transmission, as well as insulin receptor signaling is also can be seen as that in the clinical condition. And obviously the tau protein and beta amyloid can also be seen in. So in that case, this STZ rat model is much more better compared to a lot of people use beta amyloid injection directly into the brain. So that immediately increase the beta amyloid, but that's not exactly what happens clinically in humans. So we have used this model for this orthosiphon. So what we do, we have to do stereotaxic surgery. We anesthetize animal, put into the frame, make the hole using stereotaxic axis, and then make the hole. drill it, make holes into the skull, and then inject directly into the hippocampus. Okay, because Alzheimer's is very much related to the hippocampus when it comes to learning and memory, and this is where we wanted to introduce the streptozotocin in hippocampus, and this is where all the changes happens to induce Alzheimer's-like condition in animals. So we allow about a week for recovery, and then once animal are recovered, then only we start the treatment and all the tests. So what I wanted to show with this model, this again, you look at the behavior as I explained earlier. Here we use the special long-term memory tests, EPM, as well as passive avoidance, which involve electric shock and light and dark compartment. So rats normally prefer going to the dark compartment, but the moment they enter the dark compartment, there is a minute shock given to them. And if they have good memory, they will remember, if we enter the dark compartment, we will get a shock. So next time when you put them into the light compartment, they will not enter dark compartment if they remember it. So this is how the learning and memory test has been done. And APM is a widely used learning and memory to check the transfer latency into one of the closed arm. And this streptozotocin model, as I mentioned, it gives you a lot of biomarkers related to Alzheimer's disease, free radical apoptosis, which is more of degeneration, I will say, and inflammatory markers that can all induced by this model. So we have used scopolamine model, then we have used this beta amyloid hypothesis model. So we have covered 2 hypotheses as of now to show effect of any drug for Alzheimer's disease. The last model I'm talking about is a BOCA model, or you can say permanent bilateral occlusion of common carotid artery. So you occlude one of the common carotid artery into the rats, and then you tie it, and then you allow animal to recover. So that's again requires surgery. You allow the animal to recover. You start the treatment, and then there are a lot of training involved for the Morris water maze. That's another working memory test is used. And then in the end, the animals are undergo long-term potentiation test. So here we check the behavior, then we check the electrophysiology, as well as some of the gene expression studies. So this is how the long-term potentiation protocol looks like. We have to make small holes into the skull, and then one will be your stimulator, another will be recorder, where CA and CA3 region respectively, and then it is stimulated, and then the field excitatory postsynaptic potentials are recorded at CA3, CA1 region, and this is how you look at the long-term potentiation. So in Embelin, we found actually Embelin able to rescue or it able to improve the learning and memory in the treated animals, whereas the BOCA control, you can see they are still taking more time actually to find the hidden platform in the Morris water maze, which is the first line in the red you can see, whereas Embelin at dose 0.3, which is a green line, and the blue line, which is 0.6, able to significantly reduce. Unfortunately, the higher dose of Embelin was not so good as compared to the lower dose. And same thing we can see here, representation of time spent in target quadrant. Embelin and animals able to spend more time in the target quadrant compared to the BOCA model. Yeah, so that's the bottom line. And this is the long-term potentiation. Again, we can see the lower dose, which is 0.3 mg per kg of Embelin treatment, actually have a significant effect on the field excitatory postsynaptic potential when we look at on the effect of Embelin on the long-term potentiation. So that means Embelin has significantly increased the long-term potentiation. So this also supported by our gene expression results, looking at a number of interesting and important mRNAs, especially CRAB, APP, which is amyloid precursor protein, SOD, NF-kappa B, tau, and BDNF. And we found Embelin actually significantly improved most of these except CRAB. CRAB was only significant at a lower dose, same as the BDNF, whereas all the other uh, uh, parameters were dose dependently was improving with the Embelin treatment. So I'm coming to the last part of the talk, which is Embelin is non-toxic on the blood-brain barrier on the porcine cells, so it's able to cross it. They has a cholinergic central effect, able to modify the cholinergic hypothesis, and also improve the expression of some of the important genes, especially the BDNF and CRAB. And then we found both STZ hypothesis as well as the BOCA, which is the chronic cerebral hypoperfusion, where Embelin found to be improving the learning and memory abilities, as well as significantly increasing some of the important expression of BDNF and CRAB as well, and also reducing the amyloid precursor protein and MAP kinase level. So what I was trying to say from this whole presentation is Alzheimer's disease is a multifactorial disease. And if you just use one single model, that may not be able to answer your hypothesis or the question of whether that particular drug is improving Alzheimer's condition or not. And in our study, we found like, Embelin was very effective in most of the model, but we also found there is a narrow therapeutic window because we could see the effect at lower doses, but that was not so significant when we increase the higher dose. That means at higher dose, there was some toxicity parameter that needs to be improvised. And for that reason, we are actually continuing our research by combining to some artificial or synthetic polymers to increase the effectiveness of so for this, I would like to thank my lab members and my collaborators here, and thank you again for the this invitation and for the talk. I'm more than happy to take if there are any questions on my presentation. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for describing and highlighting the progressive disorder that is Alzheimer's disease and its plant-based constituent that is Embelin and its effect on the various neurotransmitters and your multi-motorial models and hypotheses. Thank you. Thank you so much for enlightening us with your inspiring presentation. Your years of research and your depth of understanding and your ability to present the subject in such an interesting way made the today's section more exemplary. Thank you. Now I would like to call Dr. Satinder Rajput, sir, head of department, to give word of thanks. Thank you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anjali ji. It was the pleasure to listen Mr. Farooq, Dr. Farooq. He is well explained how actually the models and basics, even the molecular signaling, how it works in the Alzheimer's disease. He has very well compared about the different animal models for the Alzheimer's diseases. It's a pleasure for us, and definitely I also thanks Abhishek Bansal and Jitendra Sinha ji for coming on this particular platform. And you know that not only because of, we can say, the corona or numerous reasons, even aging, the Alzheimer's disease is progressing very fast and numbers is increasing day by day. And India being rich in the herbals always have a edge, and definitely as mentioned by our speaker, honorable speaker, that there are different leads molecules available with us. Either you take the Brahmi, curcumin, even as he mentioned about there are multiple roles. So kind of we have the major collates and the information knowledge we are having and the expertise as you Diliji mentioned about the experience of Jiten Sinha sir. He has done wonderful research in the area and is the leading researcher in the neuroscience. As Farooq Sheikh sir has mentioned, there was only few people who have joined the conference on the neuroscience. And actually, this kind of association is very important, and we have to sustain such kind of association and collaborations. So, Farooq sir, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपको. And on behalf of Gurukul family and all the organization team, we heartily would like to invite you for the Gurukul Kangri Vishwavidyalaya Haridwar, and including the chair of the session today and moderator. Please visit whenever you find the time. And naturally, the teamwork is the great work, and we will initiate work in this particular area, Alzheimer disease, or we can take the disorders of central nervous system. Thank you very much. Over to Anjali.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mohammad Farooq Sheikh, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Jitendra Kumar Sinha, sir, for making this today's session on Alzheimer's disease and the use of natural products for their effectiveness in Alzheimer's disease, which is a progressive disorder as described by our honorable speaker, sir. Thank you for making today's session a good one for our students and for whole students community. Thank you so much, sir.
Before concluding this session, I will request the initiator, or we will say the organizer of this particular session, Dr. Abhishek Bansal, please share your opinion, remark, and conclude the session.
Good evening all. On behalf of Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Gurukul Kangri University, Haridwar, I take this opportunity to propose vote of thanks for today's session. I convey my regards and hearty thanks to today's speaker, Dr. Mohammad Farooq Sheikh, for the wonderful talk. We are really enlightened with your knowledge and presence. We are also thankful to the chairman of today's session, Dr. Jitendra Kumar Sinha sir, MIT University, Noida, and our moderator, Ms. Anjali Dhillon, MIT University, Haryana, for their valuable presence. We are also thankful to Dr. Sandeep Vedangla, Ved Vibhag, Gurukul Kangri Vishwavidyalaya Haridwar, for enchanting Ved mantras. And I would like to thank our principal sir, Dr. Satyen Kumar Rajput, for his enthusiastic support. A special thanks to our teaching and non-teaching staff for their unflinching support and coordination. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to our students for active participation. So thank you once again to our speaker, chairman sir, and moderator, ma'am, for accepting our invitation and enlightening the session. Thank you so much. Thank you once.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.